Hello and welcome to the final edition of the Morning Surf for the 2024 Australian Open, a massive men's final coming up this evening to preview all of the action, Lleyton, Hewitt and Jim Courier. But before we get into the match, let's reflect on the tournament so far. I think it's safe to say it's been a tournament of upsets, but Lleyton, how do you think you will best remember the 2024 Australian Open?
For me, it's probably the epic five-set matches on the men's side. There has been so many great matches. On the Australian side of it, we've lost some epic 7-6 in the fifth matches that have been heartbreakers as well. So, we turned it into the match tiebreak, and I think that has all brought it about this epic finish to the five-set matches.
And Jim, for you, has there been anyone that's really won you over as a fan of tennis, or a storyline that you've really loved?
Well, I think Jun Chen-Wen is a great story. That's a new star, and 10 years on after Li Na, her emerging in this tournament, that is really exciting for the sport in general. And one other thing I'd like to bring up is I think this has been the most fan-forward, fan-friendly Australian Open. The addition of the Sunday start, another 90,000 people got to get a taste of the Australian Open. All the things that they've done to allow the fans to be a little bit more relaxed on the grounds, I think is just a really wise move by Tennis Australia. We want more people to come see this great experience of an event.
And of course, Nine's Wide World of Sports has all of the Grand Slams throughout the year. So, Lleyton, who should we be really keeping a close eye on for the rest of the year, do you think?
Oh, well, I guess one Australian, Alex de Minaur. Now he's a top 10 player. So whether he can go to the next stage, he's only made one quarter-final at a Grand Slam, was the US Open a few years back. He'll be hoping to try and get through to his first semi-final for the rest of the next three majors coming up.
All right, tonight, Jannik Sinner into his first Grand Slam final. First off, for the semi, Jim, what impressed you most about that win over Djokovic that most probably didn't see coming?
Well, I think that some players can get a little bit anxious at the finish line when they're in a situation like that. I mean, Jannik knew that Novak didn't start his best, and he knew that eventually Novak was going to find his form, but he didn't overplay. He stuck to his guns, stuck to his game plan, and was really calm, cool, and collected along the way, and collected the biggest win of his career as a result. And
the fact that now he's done it a couple of times, like twice at the back end of last year, and now in the Australian Open semi-final, has Jannik Sinner and some of the other young guns, have they figured out the secret to beating Novak Djokovic?
I'm not sure. I don't know if there's a secret, but Jannik is certainly that confidence that he got from the end of last year, being able to beat him in a couple of weeks in a row. So he beat him in the Tour finals in the round robin stage, but then the Davis Cup finals, saving match points there. But for him to come here, like Jim said, under the pressure and expectation over 5 sets as well, that's going to do so much for his confidence moving forward, and this won't be the only Grand Slam final we see him in.
Do you think, Jim, it's harder now for Novak to get number 25, or is that just a small blip in the incredible career?
I think we have to keep this in perspective. The guy still won 3 of the 4 majors last season and was a set away from the calendar year Grand Slam. Because he is 36 years old, he'll be 37 when the next major is played at Roland Garros. Of course, we're trying to see if there are any signs of degradation. But if he was 26 and he lost this match, we wouldn't be saying anything. We'd be like, he's the favorite at the next 3, and he has every right to be in that discussion. Of course, should Sinner win here, he'll feel like he'll have a chance. Alcaraz, there are lots of other players around, but I don't see Novak just going on a cliff dive from here.
Novak aside, can you see then Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz, early 20s still, dominating more so than, say, Tsitsipas, Zverev, who are later 20s, even Danill Medvedev, this really young crop? Is this their time?
I think this is going to be one of the great rivalries moving forward, the Sinner-Alcaraz rivalry. Potentially like the Roger-Rafa one we saw for so many years as well. And it's intriguing. Both game styles are slightly different as well. Their upbringings are different. So I'm really excited. I think tennis needs it. We need these new guys coming through now. And finally, we've been talking about it for a long time. It's kind of spurred Novak on, though. He's got better with it as well, with the challenges that they've presented the last couple of years, but I'm really excited about where the men's game's going.
And I think also don't sleep on Holger Rune, the young Dane who's already in the top 10. He's the same age as Alcaraz, just 20 and in the top 10 already. Didn't have his best Australian summer, but the kid has a lot of moxie. He has 2 good coaches. He has Severin Luthi, who spent all the time with Roger Federer, and he has Boris Becker, who did amazing work with Novak. So I think that he's going to be a factor too. He's a little bit behind these guys in development, but he is a real talent as well.
All right, the match this evening, if we're talking strategy for Jannik Sinner, can he take anything out of that Novak Djokovic match, or do you think they're 2 completely separate opponents? Like tactically, What's he thinking?
Well, it's completely different styles out there, Medvedev to Novak, but I think he's got to go out there with the belief that he can do it. He was pulling the trigger line really well off both sides in that match against Novak. He's very confident from the back of the court. It's very hard to hit balls past him. Same as Medvedev, though. Medvedev defends extremely well. It's going to be interesting. Sinner's going to try and get up on the baseline, I think, as much as possible and be trying to dictate play. It's going to be interesting to see where Medvedev goes with his baseline stance.
What about Darren Cahill, Sinner's coach, the Aussie? You guys know him both very well. He was in the crowd or in the media box then for that second match, watching on very closely. What does he bring to Sinner's camp?
Well, he coached Lleyton, so I'll defer to you, Lleyton.
No, he brings a lot of great ideas, that's for sure. But I think it's the experience of being here. He's done it before, obviously with me a long time ago, but Andre Agassi, he's done it with Halep as well. So he's been around these days. Tomorrow, Jannik's going to wake up, he's going to be anxious, he's going to be nervous, but just that calmness to have around his team is really important, I think, going into this. But this isn't something that they've just been planning the last couple of weeks. You know, this has been in the works for a number of years now. Jannik, I think, is a very determined young man. He's seen how good his potential can be, and he wants to get there, and I think he's desperate to go out there and hold up one of these big trophies.
How are you mentally coming into this, Jim, for Jannik Sinner, knowing it's his first Grand Slam final? How do you navigate the emotions and perhaps the anxiety of the biggest stage of your career?
Well, that's where Darren Cahill, because he's the only one on Jannik's team. They're all experts. They're all specialists in their areas. But Darren is the one with the experience of being with players like Lleyton on that final Sunday, being with players in the big moments and knowing how to say the right thing to get them in the right headspace. And the right headspace is to go out there and treat that imposter, like it's no different. You've got to go out there, play the match for what it is. You're playing an opponent in Medvedev who is very, very tough. We know this. But the messaging has to be, you've beaten him the last 3 times you played him. And it was just at the end of last year. You know how to beat him. Yes, it's best of 5 sets. Go execute your game plan, be patient, and good things will happen.
And for Jannik, given he was in such great form at the back end of the year, and for a long time we've been saying he's a future Grand Slam champion, is this just the beginning? Can you see him over the next year or two adding a couple more?
Yeah, absolutely. I think his confidence has gone even higher the last 6 months or so, really. And as I said, he was very close to beating Alcaraz 2 years ago at the US Open. He was 1 point away from doing that. Alcaraz went on to win that Grand Slam there, and he probably feels like, yep, this is my time now to push towards holding these majors up, and he's going to be great on all surfaces. He's not just a hard court player.
For Daniil, if you're looking at Jannik Sinner's game, Jim, is there a weakness of sorts, or can you target somewhere in particular?
That's kind of the problem, and why Sinner's giving these top players fits right now. He's got one of the most remarkable records against top 5 players in recent times that I've seen. He's won 9 out of the last 10. That was stunning to me, because I've been following but hadn't paid that close attention. That is unmistakable brilliance on his part, and what he's done is he's been methodically shoring up the weaknesses. The serve has gotten more accurate with a little bit more speed. Out of the corners, he's able to defend better, and that's really important against these guys to play that defense to offense position so much better than he was before, because he's a skinny dude, but he's added about 3 kilos of weight to his legs, and that stability is really important to give him that burst out of the corners. I don't really see a weakness in Jannik Sinner, and I think what we're seeing is him do a little bit of what Novak did with his game kind of in the same time period and just shore up the couple of things that were vulnerable. The only weakness is really the fear of the unknown on a final Sunday, trying to do a life-changing moment, which is win your first major.
Medvedev seems to be the marathon man this tournament. It's probably taken it out of him, but knowing that he can last those 5 sets and claw his way back into a contest, does that also give him confidence that he can go the distance?
Yeah, absolutely, and he's been there before. This is his 3rd time in Australian Open final. He knows what to expect out there. I think once Novak lost as well in that semi-final, then he would have all of a sudden thought, okay, this could potentially be my chance. He nearly lost it. He went down 2 sets to love, but he was able to find a way. He digs deep, and I think serving's going to be the key for him. He's thrown in some double faults at some testy times throughout this tournament. If he throws in loose service games against Sinner, he's going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed in that match that we were looking at the other night with Medvedev is that he recognized after a couple sets that he physically didn't have the reserves to play the 30, 40, sometimes even 50 shots rallies with Zverev. So he made adjustments. He hit drop shots more than I'm used to seeing him. He came to the net as the match wore on more and more often to try and shorten the points. So he may have to make more adjustments than Jannik does. Jannik, I think, is fully fresh. He's ready to go. If Jannik gets tired, it will be because he's burning nervous energy and stress on the situation. It won't be because of the 6 matches prior, because he's been cruising physically in those.
Jim, you mentioned the fact that Jannik won 3 matches against Medvedev at the back end of last year. The 6 prior to that, it was Medvedev. So for Daniil, knowing that Jannik's got the better of him recently, does that play into your mind at all, or do we just like to play that up?
You bet it does. No, I mean, he will be very aware that he owned him. You know, if you beat someone 3 times in a row in the locker room, we say that person is your pigeon. Well, he was a double pigeon for a while. With Sinner was his double pigeon, but now the roles are reversed, and that's 3 on the trot for Jannik. So he'll have the confidence and the knowledge that he's able to get the job done. But if you're Medvedev and you're Gilles Savara, his coach, you're saying, but not in best of 5. That's the one caveat.
So we've analysed it for a while now, but if we can channel for a moment, I want you to be Jannik Sinner for 1 second. The final message, what's the one thing you need to do to go out there and win the Australian Open?
I think I've got to try and take it to him. I've got to stand up on the baseline. I'm serving extremely well, so I think he's got to go out there and back himself under the big moments. It's an area of his game he's really worked on in the last year and a half, and it's been holding up extremely well. You've got to tell yourself you are the best player. I've been beating the best players now for the last 3 months. I'm going to continue it on the big stage.
And you're Daniil. What do you tell yourself before you walk out?
Yeah, I mean, if you're Daniil and you're Daniil's coach, you're the problem solver. You're going out there with the experience and that big tennis brain, and you're going out there trying to be patient and outlast in these ground stroke rallies if you have the legs, and try and see if Sinner's going to be anxious and make unforced errors. He does play a riskier game than Medvedev, and Medvedev needs to have a really good day on first serves. One thing that he didn't do well in the semifinals in the first 2 sets, he didn't serve well. It didn't seem like he was in gear. He needs to bring that serve from the get-go, as Lleyton was saying. That's going to be critical for him.
And just finally, not sure if I am putting you on the spot here, but I would like a tip. Who wins and in how many sets?
I'm going to go Jannik Sinner, and I think he can do it in 4 sets.
Yeah, I agree. That's the call.
There we go. Jannik Sinner to win his first ever Grand Slam title. Lleyton Hewitt, Jim Courier, it's been a pleasure for the entire tournament. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for your company this whole tournament on The Morning Serve.
Wide World of Sports is your home of the Australian Open.
With highlights of every match of the AO, the on-court interviews, and every day with the Morning Serve, you'll be ahead of the game.
So click that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing this Australian Open.